How many times have you said, I'll start tomorrow? Tomorrow I'll eat better. Tomorrow I'll work out. Tomorrow I'm finally going to take care of my body. And then tomorrow comes and nothing changes. Welcome to Why Do I Keep Doing That? This podcast is for smart, capable people who are tired of repeating patterns they've already outgrown. I'm Brenda Florida, certified life coach, and if you've ever walked away from a conversation, a decision, or a relationship thinking, why did I just do that again? You are in the right place. You're not stuck, you're patterned. And patterns can be interrupted. In each episode, I'm going to break down why you keep doing what you do, where it started, and how to shift it so you can stop reacting and start leading in your own life. I'm so glad you're here. How many times have you said, I'll start tomorrow? Tomorrow I'll eat better. Tomorrow I'll work out. Tomorrow I'm finally going to take care of my body. And then tomorrow comes and nothing changes. So you tell yourself what you think is the truth. I don't have any discipline. I'm not consistent. What's wrong with me? I hear this a lot from clients. I know what I need to do to feel better, like when I work out or eat well or whatever it is. I feel better, so why is it so hard to do it? That's where the real issue is. As I always say, it's not the problem, it's the pattern. And this is about a pattern. You can call it the I'll start tomorrow pattern, which also typically turns into the body shaming pattern. We're shaming ourselves about our body. We're shaming our body somehow. Shame and body are going together. And if you've been doing this for years, it's not about motivation or a lack of it or a lack of discipline or willpower. This is a pattern loop. And because we tend to focus on the problem, I'm not working out enough, I'm not eating well enough, whatever, I'm not sticking to some routine, and we focus on that problem, that takes us to solutions that are just basically about trying harder, being better, being more disciplined, and all that force does not help us break a pattern. Okay, let me explain this pattern to you. In this case, you feel uncomfortable in your body in some way. You decide you want to fix that. You don't follow through, and then you turn on yourself. And in this issue, often it's also so easy to blame ourselves because there's not usually anyone blocking our way to the gym. I mean, we can make excuses about being busy and the kids needed that and my job needed that. But when it comes down to it, we typically tend to blame ourselves when it comes to issues about our body. And being hard on ourselves about it is the opposite of the answer. Okay, there is no amount of self-criticism or shame or self-discipline that will get you to a long-term, sustainable transformation in how you are relating to your body, how you're taking care of your body in all the ways. This takes true change. So let me say this loud and clear too. This pattern does not just affect your body. It affects how you show up in your life in all kinds of ways. It affects what you wear. You probably are aware of that. It affects what you say yes to or no to because you don't want to do it because you don't think your body can do it. I love these guys on Instagram called First Wave. And they're right in Waikiki, and they go around and ask strangers if they have never surfed before, if they want a surf lesson. And the first one I saw, my daughter was sending to me because I have this secret fantasy of surfing. I thought I was going to do it for my 50th birthday, and then I didn't, and whatever. I've never done it. And so now I feel like, oh, I'm too old, I'm too out of shape, whatever. And these guys, the First Wave Project, did a video with a woman, I don't know, my age, older than me maybe, not in shape, and a little, stiff and, not frail, but like, when you're older and your body's getting stiff, that you could hurt yourself a lot easier, that kind of thing. Anyway, she's like, no, I can't do it. I can't get up on a surfboard. And sure enough, these guys get her up on a surfboard riding a wave. And it just made me cry because there's so much we're really capable of, except for all the ways we're shaming ourselves and telling ourselves it's too late and we can't do that. And, all those things. This affects you in how you see yourself, how visible you're willing to be. I have a client who hates seeing herself in a picture. So she, doesn't hardly ever let her picture be taken. And if you've been in this for a lot of years, there are a lot of costs, not just to the way that exercise and better eating habits or better routines would help us, like on a physical level, but mentally the cost it is, the energy it takes, and the mental, time it takes to be criticizing ourselves, and then what that does to us and the stress all that creates. So this is about a hell of a lot more than exercise. It's about slowly losing trust in yourself and starting to shame yourself. You don't start sticking to your eating or exercise routine when you try to take action from a place of shame. Shame will never build consistency. It builds avoidance, actually. So we can have shame, or willpower and discipline can give us short bursts of discipline, doing it. So maybe you have an event, you want to get in shape for, something, and you might do, or you're, everybody in January, yes, this is the year I'm going to do it. But when we don't deal with the pattern underneath it first, then that's where by February, March, not nearly as many people are at the gym, because that sort of just short-term motivation or leaning into discipline or willpower, it's just not sustainable. So we've got to go to the pattern. What's the pattern that is causing this? So for your first tool here, I want you to just ask yourself, when you're in that moment, or you can just think your way back. It's probably a very familiar moment, so you can just kind of put yourself back in that moment right now. What am I actually feeling when I'm in that resistance and I don't want to go, or I don't want to do I grab the potato chips instead of the cucumbers? What am I actually feeling? What am I feeling in that moment? Am I grabbing the potato chips because I'm emotionally stressed out and they're more soothing than a cucumber is to me? Am I, feeling shame about my body, which is actually just making me not want to go to the gym even more? How am I feeling when that kicks in? Am I frustrated, disappointed? Do I feel pressure or embarrassment? Like whatever it is, name it. Because if you don't name the feeling, you'll keep turning that feeling into the problem about your body. And so then instead of asking like, what do I do to fix this? Ask this very much more empowering question. What would feel supportive right now? Because here's what I want you to understand in this concept of pattern interruption. Number one, the pattern began in a way that it wanted to be benevolent to you. It wanted to be good to you. It wanted to protect you in some way. So lots of us who have experienced sexual or some kind of physical trauma, especially as children, we get disassociated from our bodies, and sort of staying out of our body makes us feel safer. So like I realize that's part of my resistance to routine exercise and stuff, is that I just tend to disconnect from my body anyway. And so I've got to be with that. I need to understand that. I need to be loving to that part of me that thought not move, literally in my case, not moving was the safest thing I could do. Well, especially because that pattern got activated in me through a trauma, that's incredibly powerful in my subconscious mind. And so when I look through that lens, I can meet myself with compassion in this lifelong struggle to movement. For me, it's about moving my body. That's the part I struggle with the most, that I think of as the problem. And then when I realize, but there was a time when this little girl who was sexually abused believed that not moving was the safest thing to do. And it probably was, we'll never know anything different because that's what I did. But in most cases, when children are being traumatized by an adult, they can't fight that or run away from that or whatever. And so all these patterns really began to help us. And then there comes a day when we're not a child anymore and we have other resources, and then they start to limit us instead of help us. And so that's, the motivation, so to speak, for finding the pattern, interrupting it, and finding a new response, changing how we respond in the situation. And the same is true whether we're talking about something like one of the other programs I have about, saying yes when you mean no, as to our bodies. We have some pattern in us that believes that whatever we're doing or not doing is going to keep us safe. Let's take something like smoking. Like, we intellectually know smoking is going to kill you, but somewhere in your body, in your system, the habit of smoking, either from the nicotine, the physical, pattern of using your hands, the oral part, maybe you step outside to smoke, and so that takes you out of the environment for a minute. Those things made you feel safe. And so your neural pathways in your brain connected, I'm safer when I go out to smoke. So of course you smoke. It's not about the logic of, do I think this is good for me? That died many years ago. There was a time back in the 60s when people thought smoking was good for them. But that ship sailed a long time ago. So we know it's not good for us. That's not enough. That's why it's not the problem. It's the pattern. We've got to go find that. What caused that pattern, so we can interrupt it and respond differently. So this interruption of what would feel supportive right now. And the word supportive is really important here. It's not about being perfect or being extreme. I have a real tendency to do this, so I'll admit. I haven't done anything, for months, and I'm like, I'm going to go, do an hour spin class and, run my legs off and practically die. No, we don't have to be extreme. What would feel supportive? It might be a short walk. It might just be stretching. It might be drinking some water. It might just be not criticizing yourself for the next, 5 minutes or, the rest of the day, because you're not going to go get on the treadmill or you're not going to go to yoga class or whatever. And you just meet yourself with love and say, it's okay. I have a pattern that's gotten activated, whether you know how to name it or not. Just know, trust me on this, there's a pattern that's been activated that used to help you and is now limiting you. But that's okay. I can't stop that today. I can't deal with all that today. So I'm just going to love myself and not go to the gym or whatever it is. That's how you start breaking the loop. These interruptions are so incredibly powerful, and we can't skip them. We can't just suddenly start magically responding different. We've got to interrupt this pattern. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I've been doing this for years. I know this pattern, inside and out, and I'm still stuck in it. Just know that it's not something you're going to think your way out of. This is the kind of pattern that we interrupt together in a pattern interrupt session. If you keep spinning around and the tools that we've talked about here are not doing too much to break the pattern, or you sort of already get this part and you do this some of the time or whatever, and you're still feeling stuck, this is what the pattern interruption session is for. That's where we can take all this to the next level, because this pattern got activated in you a long time ago. So you have a seriously well-worn neuro pathway to keep you avoiding exercise or eating healthy or whatever it is, whatever you're shaming your body about. And that pattern is what's really driving the problem. So if we can work together one-on-one in the pattern interrupt session, then we can work specifically with your pattern, what's driving it, what the tools that work for you, because not everything obviously works for everyone. We're all unique. So you can get out of that loop and stop having to, start over again tomorrow or Monday or whatever, so we can get you feeling successful in that arena, because you don't need more discipline. You don't need a different starting point. And you don't need any more harshness, any more criticism, any more shame. What you need is to find this pattern and interrupt it and start to respond differently. And the pattern interrupt session is absolutely the next step. And I hope that you'll book one. I hope to see you in a one-on-one pattern interruption session. And I'm so thrilled you were here for me in this video, and use the worksheet below. Listen to this over and over if it helps. Use that worksheet, or, just start taking notes in your phone or email yourself, whatever makes it easy for you, of, what could I do that would be supportive now? And maybe memories or recording ways that this pattern makes you feel. Being able to see, can I see that this is a pattern, not really, the problem is I'm not going to the gym, I'm not eating healthy regularly, whatever, you've identified the problem. But really there's a pattern where I'm wanting to avoid my body, or maybe even be harmful to my body, or whatever it is that has brought you into this shame. And asking that very powerful question, what would feel supportive right now? That's a great question to kind of bridge that interruption to a new response. If something in this episode rang true, that matters. Awareness is powerful, but interruption is what creates change. So remember, you're not stuck. There's nothing wrong with you. You're patterned. If you're ready to interrupt that pattern, then book a way out session. We'll identify it clearly, interrupt it directly, and build a new response for you. The link is in the show notes. And if this episode helped you see something differently, send it to somebody who needs it. That's how we grow. I also love to give a shout out to listeners who leave reviews and share an episode, because I love recognizing the people who are actually doing the work. I will see you in the next episode.